Hello everyone! Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Let's Have Renaissance, a podcast about writing, editing, publishing, the arts, and more.
And I'm Micaiah Ukini, and today we're here with Charles Ritchie. Charles has been drawing, journaling, and painting in watercolors from his studio window in Silver Spring, Maryland for 40 years. Many of his drawings and watercolors are palimpsests, created over decades, comprised of overlapping images of his suburban neighborhood captured at various times throughout the day and year. Key themes in his work include light, time, and dreams. Charles holds an MFA in painting from Carnegie-Mellon University and a BFA from the University of Georgia, Athens. His work is held by public and private collections including the Baltimore Museum of Art, Harvard, Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York Public Library, Yale University Art Gallery, and elsewhere. We're excited to... Before we begin, I've got a quick announcement for our listeners. We're curating resources for artists and writers on our blog. It's completely free. Check it out at thedatekeepers.com and feel free to reach out anytime and let us know what other resources you want us to build. Also, we'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast with your friends and on your socials so we can reach more people and do more for the creative community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles, for joining us. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Yes, I'm Charles Ritchie. I'm an artist. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. Lived in the same house for 40 years now. And I'm an artist that keeps a journal. I have kept a journal since 1977. And today I started the 172nd book of that journal series. In the journals, I keep watercolor sketches of things that I'm interested in, and I also keep a good bit of writing. And this whole experience of being an artist has been tracked in image and word through this series of journals. Additionally, I'm an artist who has sort of settled in the same place and works at the same place and uses it as my subject. So when we moved into our house, there's this window in the front room, which is the place where we eat all our meals. Is the dining room, essentially. But this window just attracted me. So I pulled myself up to this window and have been watching out this window and have been watching what is reflected at night in the window and watching the subjects in the house, outside the house, and these have all become the subjects of my drawings. I have been doing series of watercolor drawings both in these journals and outside the books concerning all of these subjects, watching them as deeply as I can over time. And that's basically my project.
Can you describe the palimpsest nature of your work? Because so your drawings and your sketches all depict this suburban neighborhood, and I think in most people's imagination, Suburbia is just sort of the archetypal embodiment of all that is boring and drab and doesn't really have any color or life or dynamism. And yet, when you look at your work, you see so many layers of it's subtle, but it's there. So many layers of dynamism, and your work feels very organic. It doesn't feel lifeless at all. And can you talk about how you achieved that and like what you found in Suburbia of all places that you've been able to make art out of?
Well, thanks for your kind words about the work. I like to think of my journals as a kind of a linear journey. The subjects are repeated throughout that journey. Whereas the drawings that I work on are very much overlapping, palimpsests, as you say. And the drawings are started and can go on for many years. I have one drawing that I've been doing for 31 years. Each spring I pull up to the window and draw the blossoms. There's a moment where all the daffodils and the dogwood and the red buds are in bloom, and there's a wonderful instant. And I pull that drawing out during that particular period of time, being in front of the subject, and work on it then. So that's an example of a lot of the works that I do. I do them over long periods of time. Very few of my works are less than a year or two long. And of course, I'm working on the subject at the right time of day, in the right season, and in the right moment that it feels appropriate. I work very much by intuition as to knowing what I'm going to work on, but it's very much a kind of intuitional journey, and I lose things in this pile. I have a pile of drawings, maybe 60 drawings are sitting over on the side, and I just sort of pull out the various ones and look at them occasionally. And some years I forget them. I can lose drawings for a couple of years and then come back. But what happens is that the experience on working all of those drawings brings me to new things, new materials, new approaches, learning how to scrub out a watercolor. People think watercolor is so permanent, so dangerous. Oh my, you've put down a wash and it won't come up. Well, I've learned lots of tricks for reworking areas. I simply put water down and then use a acrylic bristle brush and slightly tap it, and gosh, I can get it almost back to white. So there are these techniques that I learn along the way, or erasing, or grinding. I take a grinder and grind the sucker, or a light sandpaper, or I've recently discovered a white acrylic paint that matches nicely with the materials that I'm using, that I can actually paint over into the image. So there are a lot of levels of discovery that occur along the way. Ways of rethinking images that I try to bring back to each of the images as they go. And so it's great to get away from things for a while, lose something for a while, and then when you come back, you're fresh. You've forgotten what was precious about it, what was the roadblock, and you can bring all that you've learned back to the subject. So there's also the writing element. I work in my journals writing, and then I also write on my drawings, and we can talk a bit about, as we go along, about my dreams and how I am working with my dreams, but I oftentimes write on my drawings while I'm drawing. It's early in the morning. Love to get up early in the morning and work. And so when I'm sitting there coming out of this dream state and drinking my coffee, I'll think of dreams that have happened. And so I'll inscribe in pencil, usually on the drawing that I'm working on. And then as time goes on, it gets rubbed away or rubbed out. I usually rewrite the dream in my journal because I keep track of my dreams as a sort of a tracking of my subconscious, and so there's all this kind of layering that goes into these both the books and the drawings that are about time.
So do you publish or sell iterations of these images and then continue working on that same image? So can you find instances of your work where you've sold or published one stage of its development and then you've continued to develop that same work and put another one out into the world and so on? Or do you always sort of pick a point to stop working on a certain piece and then you put it out into the world?
I don't have any kind of rule about that. But yes, in the past I have gotten to things to a certain place, and then generally what I would do is trace it off and then maybe put it out into the world. There are not that many that I've done like that. Usually they just sort of fall back into the pile and I rediscover them later and work on top of them, is usually what happens. I do make a limited edition prints. I work with a fellow named James Stroud of Center Street Studio in Milton, Massachusetts, and we do limited edition prints And I have used the drawings that I make as basis for intaglio prints, which are put out into the market. And I like to base them on the drawings. So those would be a different iteration. But I hate to say it, but the focus has been less on, getting things out into the world and putting them into the market. Is the project just sort of organically growing as a whole, and sort of deciding when something is finished. And then my wife is my hero. She builds my journals for me, and she also frames my works for me. And so we kind of look at things together and decide if the thing is finished, and we sort of decide to let it go. But I don't finish that many things. I think the most things I've finished in a year is in the low 20s, and most years I've finished 4 or 5, 6 works. It's just not a project that I birth a lot of works easily.
Can you talk a little bit about collaborating with your wife?
Oh, yeah. Jenny and I met at art school in the University of Georgia drawing class, and she walked in with the biggest sheet of masonite with newsprint you could ever think of, and I walked in with my tiny little sketchbook and sat across from her as life drawing began, and I said, boy, this is interesting. I got to meet this woman. And we got together, and she has just become, the kind of key thinker, the slow, careful thinker that kind of supports my irrational, irregular, try this, try this, kind of unpredictable nature. And, she's just one of these people that is so thoughtful and smart and inventive. I don't know what I would do without her. Building these beautiful books for me is really tremendous. For the first 80 books, I actually bought them off the shelves. They were a standard book, 4x6. But Jenny decided that she wanted to learn to make books, so she took a course and started making these things. And so I tear the paper, and she sews them in signatures and puts them into this 4x6 cover that works beautifully for me. The sketchbook is really a product of my desire to keep my work with me at all times. I can't thank her enough.
You said you wake up and work very early. How early?
I've gotten to the point where I like 2:30 in the morning. I go to bed very early, and I work through until daybreak, and then I'll go back for a second sleep in the morning. And I love those hours because, my wife's asleep. She likes to get up with the light, and I have just the whole house to myself. I can come out of this dream state in the studio, listening to my subconscious in the quiet of the morning. It just fits my whole body clock. I encourage others to do that. Find your body clock and work to the body clock as much as you can.
The poet Nikki Giovanni said she always used to love teaching creative writing workshops that started at 8 a.m. because her students were always still half asleep, and they were coming to her straight from their dreams. And it sounds like that's also...
Well, then I do think that listening to one's subconscious and listening to one's dreams, this is the voice of ghosts in my head, and I'm taking dictation from it. I'm listening to my subconscious, and I really do think, being tuned into that subconscious is the way I stumble into my subject.
Speaking of which, can you talk a little bit more about the subjects of the written aspects of your work and how you incorporate them into the drawings and the paintings, and what are you dealing with your writing?
Yeah, the writing is lots of different things, and it has changed over time. I mean, if you go back through the 171 journals that are finished, you'll see that the early years, I was trying to write what I did every day, and that got very boring very quickly for me. It just was too stiff, too formal. It never has been about the images beside them as such. I'm capturing images separately, and the images and the writing abut each other, but they don't necessarily inform each other in any conscious way. But after I got tired of and it really was the first book, which was a big book, but it was the first one, and I just decided I got to let things in, and so I just started thinking of what am I seeing? What am I doing? Putting the words down of what I was seeing. There was a interesting experiment. One night I was taking a bus trip across country, or a long bus trip, and I couldn't see my hand, but I just started writing the words of what I was seeing out the window in the bus. What were just following what I was seeing and writing things down. Eventually, I started recognizing that I could remember my dreams, and that seemed like a really interesting experiment. Can I get these ghosts down into words in a book? It's always a challenge, but I really learned how to do it. As you go to sleep, say to yourself, I can remember my dreams. I'm going to remember my dreams. Fall asleep that way. And actually, that little trigger helped me a lot. So what I did was I kept a little notebook beside my bed, just a very, little, 3x7, a little spiral book. And in the middle of the night, I would wake up and I would just try to remember it. Was there any dream going on? And oh yeah, there was a rabbit. It was in the sink. It was crawling out, looking for something to, and then I would go back to sleep. I just write the word rabbit, sink, go back to bed. Wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is look over at that book, see if I can read what I wrote. And if I can read what I wrote, oftentimes it was the trigger. It was the way I could remember that. For many years, the dreams were just pouring out of me. I was having so many dreams. It was just, I was spending part of my studio time, a large part of it, writing my dreams down. They have tapered off over recent years. I'm not sure why, but that doesn't trouble me. What's sort of interesting now is that I have these crazy words that just pop up into my head. There's probably a sound quality to them, things that just pop out of me. I'm a musician. I play guitar, and I take lessons, have taken lessons for years, and I like music a lot, and I think of word sounds, musical sounds, the way words sound together, and so these become part of the things that I'm writing about too.
And do you have anything else you would like to say to our audience, or do you have any advice to young artists who are still figuring out whether they want to continue being artists or do something else? But yeah, do you have anything else you would like to share?
Well, I guess what I would like to say in relation to what we've been talking about, in reference to the idea of suburbia being boring, sitting looking out this window and say 8 years ago, they cut down a large oak tree that I had been drawing for 32 years, and I was totally mortified. It was an experience that nearly shook me. But now in its place, this little copse of trees has grown, and I've watched them grow from a sapling to taller than my house, and they're going to get taller yet. You're talking about an adventure story. Well, that's a big adventure story right there. Watching all this stuff happen and grow, people coming in and out of these houses, and I think that is the thing I could tell people is, you got to find what excites you. You got to find the thing that really gives you a ride. And, sitting at this window, watching these things that I know shift and watching the reflection at night and what's going on in the house and watching my face or watching the things that have moved in the house since I last sat down, that's an incredible way to be in tune with the world. There are infinite distractions just turning on the computer and looking on the internet. I mean, your mind can be filled with so much, but to take the time to sit in a room and think about what's going on in your brain and think about what's out the window or what's been going on to you or the dreams that you've had. I think that's an incredible universe that you can dig very, very deep in, very, very long, and actually attune yourself to the world better with.
Thank you. We really enjoyed having you on, and we really appreciate you coming.
I really love talking to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles.